Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today I haven't done one of these old school commentary videos for Pokemon Unite in a while, and I think that this is one of my favorite types of content because it's just very different from sitting there playing the game and posting gameplay, but I just have a thought process, I have some ideas of things I want to talk about, and then I just let my mind do the work from point A to point B. So let's go ahead and dive into it. If you wouldn't mind, drop a like on the video, subscribe for future Pokemon Unite content, and here we go. So, what the hell is going on with Pokemon Unite? That's essentially the title of the video, something along those lines. What is going on with this game? Where's it going? What does the future look like? Well, let's go ahead and talk about it. So, I do need to go on ahead and get out in front of what I think is like probably the only thing, more or less, I've really been wrong on, or at least the only relevant thing that I've been wrong on in regards to my previous thoughts on Pokemon Unite, and that's the fact that now, and I've been saying this for a while, but for the sake of putting it in a piece of content, now I don't ever think Pokemon Unite's gonna die. That's not true. Obviously, every game kind of has its end, I guess, even if some of us, may not outlive the games that we play or that we are aware of, because League of Legends, CS, those games are, decade plus long going. So, but you get the point, right? Games dwindle off, and for big, massive, world-defining titles like those games that I listed, they kind of do have their end. But I did not, and this is just like I said, I gotta own up to this, I did not know how strong the Pokemon IP was. I mean, I know it's like the most popular gaming media franchise in the world, but I just didn't think that it would go steady like this. I'm gonna be honest. I felt like the player base would slowly dwindle. I felt like people would become increasingly more frustrated. I felt like people would start to quit. Like the serious players would start to quit because, competitive didn't have enough money and because there wasn't enough reasons to play. And I've been mostly proven wrong on that. I do think that people have grown more frustrated, obviously, and I do think that some competitive players are a little bit fed up, but all things considered, I think the next year's WCS has added another $1 million to the overall prize pool, so that's good. More money is good because the the professional players definitely deserve it. And I think for a lot of really serious professional players, I think that's more or less enough for them, right? Like they'll play solo queue, they'll play, stacks with their friends. People have like the Redlock server now, they do in-houses, they, whatever, right? Like people are going to keep playing the game. It's the way that it is. And a lot of that comes from, whether you're professional or not, or competitive or not, a lot of it comes from the love of Pokemon. Absolutely, it comes from the love of Pokemon. And so my underestimation came from the strength of the brand, the strength of the IP. People love these characters, and I get it, right? I gotta be honest, I played Infinite Crisis, which was the DC Comics MOBA, for 2 years, and it was not good for 2 years. It was kind of only starting to get good at the very end when they decided to cancel it, and I loved that game. I wasn't so rose-tinted glasses that I didn't criticize the game. I was actually very hard on that game, and people kind of treated me the same way that they've treated me in Unite, where, I was the doom and gloomer, the ultimate bad guy. But I loved that game, and I would have played it for forever, probably, because it's my favorite franchise in the world is DC Comics. And so I get it with Pokemon Unite. So what's actually happening with the game? Well, what's happening with the game now is, by now, and honestly, it was sooner, but I think that the rose-tinted glasses and the love of the IP kind of shoved this process back for most people. I'm going to put a pin in this, so I'm going to say what's happening here in a second. A while back, I used to say that I thought most people would catch up to my frustration, but I just got to it faster because I didn't have a love for the IP. Because I don't love Pokemon, I see the game as a game in my favorite genre, which is MOBAs, and I just see all the issues. I don't see my love of these upcoming releases and my, oh my god, this character's coming out, or oh my god, that Hollowware looks so cool. I don't see really any of that. They're all, as far as it goes for me, they're just heroes in a game that have skins, right? It really is pretty ambiguous to me. And so I always used to feel that people's frustrations would catch up to mine, and I think that that's where we are now. So where we're at now, and this is, like I was saying before, this is where the game already actually was at, but people are starting to catch up to this perspective, is that the truth now. It's always been in front of us, but now you absolutely understand what the game is. Now, in my opinion, and I want to make that clear, it is very much so an opinion, I very much so think that this game is a well-developed cash grab. It is I don't know if cash grab's right. Cash cow. I think that's better. It's a game that capitalizes on a very popular franchise that uses very kind of shady business practices, but effective business practices to be a financial success. It does not necessarily mean it's an amazing game. It does not necessarily mean that the fans are always going to love everything they do, but that I think the game is financially successful enough month over month, year over year, to keep running it exactly how it's being run. They have continued, in my opinion, to test the player base to see what they can get away with, and they have continued to get away with it. And all you're seeing, so when I ask when I say what's happening with Pokemon Unite, all you're seeing is more of that. That's what's happening. More of what they've been getting away with, more of them potentially testing what they can get away with, more of them getting away with it, and more of the newfound status quo. So what's going on with Pokemon Unite? Well, in short, the game is a 5-stat game. The game is not well balanced. The game has a very unserious, non-competitive ranked mode. The game has, including no draft, I think it's important to list it, including no draft. The game is a paywall released game for new characters that are incredibly overpowered, more often than not, incredibly overpowered. Think Sylveon, think Greedent, think Blastoise, think Zacian, think Mewtwo's, and probably more if I'm forgetting them. More often than not, new releases are overpowered. The game is increasing in cost, 8K, 10K Pokemon in gold up to 14, 15, 16K. Gem locks only exclusively now, which now by extension means that the game is pay to win because the new releases are not gated from ranked and they're not bannable from ranked. So the game is absolutely pay to win. And the game has created the new status quo, the new standard, and is continuing to do so successfully. Now, what's the purpose of this video? Well, the purpose of this video is just to maybe get some of y'all to think about this a little bit more objectively, but the purpose of this video is not to get you to quit the game. I don't want people to quit Pokemon Unite. I only ever wanted to want to play it more, but unfortunately I never did. I do want to play it a little bit, and I do hop on and play it a little bit. I don't go crazy for releases. I don't look up leaks. I don't really look at patch notes that much anymore. Most of my information comes from Kristen Spraggles these days. And, when I see a new Pokemon come out, when I eventually get it, I literally go to one of their videos and copy their build, and I just play. I don't mess with emblems at all anymore. I literally, I open them, but I don't touch my pages at all anymore. I basically don't engage with the game. And for me, I think that it's important to recognize that people have different reasons why they play games. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain my reason for playing MOBAs, and I'm going to cross-reference that against what I think other players' reasons might be for playing MOBAs, and I'm going to explain how my experience has led me to where I am today. So my reason for playing MOBAs is because I think it's my favorite genre that has engaging and fun gameplay that requires a lot of macro decision-making, strategy, to be very good at and to excel at the game while requiring good mechanics, but not the most mechanical game in the world, right? I'm going to be honest, this might make some of y'all cringe. I think one of the most mechanical games in the world I've ever played was a combination between, or it's a toss-up between probably World of Warcraft, Fortnite, and probably StarCraft. I don't think I could ever be good at StarCraft. I used to be good at Fortnite, and then that game just got ridiculous. I don't like the game anymore for lots of other reasons, but the mechanics in that game are actually insane. And World of Warcraft, there's just a lot going on. So it's like you got to be mechanically gifted because you have to have an incredible game sense, know the game really well, and then be able to actually execute on that mechanically. So in PvP, of course, and PvE for that matter. So, but that's besides the point. MOBAs aren't usually the craziest mechanical games, but you do need to have really good game sense, strategy, understanding of MOBAs, and kind of like the flow of MOBA gameplay. And yeah, so I play because I love that kind of interaction with gameplay and mechanics and macro, but I also play basically any PvP competitive game for the grind and perpetual chase of improvement. That's important. It's not just grinding to grind. It's perpetually looking for improvement. Like, I could be the highest rank and I still want to try to improve to not just the highest rank, but to rank 1 of the highest rank, which in every game I've ever played, I've never been rank 1. I know Chris has done it in like Heroes of the Storm in some seasons. I've never been rank 1 in a game. I've usually in most games gotten Diamond Plus if there's a ranked ladder that kind of has that kind of hierarchy. Some games I've gotten to the highest level. I've been professional in, you know, former MOBAs, small MOBAs, but, you know, I've traveled to big LAN events. I've made money playing competitively, but I've never been usually like, I don't really have the ability to say rank 1 in basically any game I've ever played. I just get really, really high up, and I love the perpetual grind and the chase and the prestige behind it and the ability to challenge myself and to cross-reference my decisions versus other competitive players, serious players, and all of that in order to get a very serious, fun experience. And for myself, I usually engage in that in solo queue. For team games, like when I played Overwatch, I used to just love solo queuing. It's like it's the casual competitor. I used to talk about this a lot. I'm competitive, but I wasn't always trying to be professional, so I don't always want to play in the most, you know, heavy team setting, but I do have to play a team game because that's the games I like. So I'm the casual competitor that's playing as serious as I can in a solo queue environment. So for me, the reason why I'm here with Pokemon Unite today is because that game doesn't provide that, right? Like Pokemon Unite doesn't provide that. And so why do I revisit all this? It's just to say that what is happening with Pokemon Unite is that they've pushed the boundaries on what they can get away with. They have found what they can get away with. They've set that as the status quo. And now basically from here on out, they will continue to do that. And the reality is that the only way that changes is if the majority of people's opinions change enough to like make a dent, right? Which is really hard. Like people's disdain and frustration with the game has to outweigh people's love for the IP and their willingness to expedite and buy things, you know, speed up the process of unlocking a bunch of content and paying for crazy overpowered holoware and, you know, unlocking Mewtwo on, you know, through the little board game dumbass thing that it is, and continue to engage with the game. So yeah, that's my thought. I think that this is Pokemon Unite. I think that you should be well informed what the game is now. It's a cash cow that will continue on this path, most likely. And so if you enjoy the gameplay, I definitely urge you to keep playing it. Protect your mind from like give yourself solace in knowing that it's not going to change though. I think that that's fair to yourself, even if you want it to, right? Like, because if you look at some of the things that the game needs from a competitive standpoint, like if you really look at it, there really is no excuse for why it hasn't been added. We used to do the, oh, after 1 year, they'll add it. Oh, after the anniversary, you know, they're going to add it. Or after Worlds is what people used to say. They'll add it after Worlds. They don't want to change the game too much. They're going to add it. And now I do have to touch on this last point. Probably the last hope is all the Chinese beta leaks. That's probably realistically for big changes. It's probably the last hope, because it's like another really massive reason for them to change the game, right? So we'll see, right? Like maybe. I don't think the business practice will change because of that though, because why would it? They just want to make money. That's like, and it makes perfect sense. They make a lot of money. Why wouldn't they want to continue making money? So Pokemon Unite, from the kind of like suit and tie perspective, a very, very successful game. In my eyes, Pokemon Unite, from the competitive MOBA that it is and could be, not very successful. I think that it's almost like a shame to see where it's gone, but the gameplay's still fun. That's always been true. I think in a way I definitely feel bad for some of the developers that probably wish they could do more with the project, but they're just kind of stuck doing what they're told. And yeah, this is the status quo. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Drop a like in the video, subscribe for future predecessor, Pokemon Unite, MOBA, Overprime, you know, Project Loki, whatever MOBA I can kind of get my hands on content on this channel. And as always, be sure to comment one another, tell someone you love them, and I'll see you on the next video.